But the year 2004 is going to go down as an amazing, amazing Indian summer. Even though we've already had snow this year, we are just getting exceptional flying days in now. Where we are here is we've been changing the tune pipe. In fact, I think we've got 3 changed today. 1 more to go, 2 more to go. 2 more pipes in there to change. And what we've confirmed what we really thought was going to happen all along. The bigger the pipe is, the better the motor runs. The Venturi is 215. It's a full 14-inch prop. What I was hoping I would get today, if the air stays the way it is videotape a couple of flights. Now, the other day he was running a Moki. Today he's got a Mirko in there, and he's hopefully going to be getting a Ro-Jett 65 for this plane. So anyway, we'll take advantage of the fact we have some good days, and if we can, get some video. Been really excited about this 77. This has been a real upgrade, and very easy so far to tune. The hardest part is making the exhaust system big enough, getting enough volume in exhaust. That's been the limiting factor so far, in fact. And I would like, if I had a bigger tank, I would like to get the Venturi opened up some more, but for right now, it's just a John Deere tractor. So I'm going to move the camera a little bit downwind, but I wanted to shoot some of this footage so that people get some idea of the progress we're making with the 77. And that was, other than the camera being in the wrong spot, I thought that was pretty good representation of how this motor is panning out little by little. It's the 215 Venturi, burns 14-inch 3-blade, the carbon fiber 6-ounce tank, 5% fuel. Just about, that's about as rich as I'd fly it. That's a very soft brake. I can go on a needle and it'll do 4 more if we get into that situation later. Speed control is just out of control good. I think that, well, as time goes by, we're going to get better and better and better at this. Don't have any head gaskets yet, and I have 3 different pipes to try today, so I'm going to one by one try these different pipes. What the difference in the pipes is, they're just bigger and bigger and bigger volume, that's all. was in the right position or if we're getting anything, but just a little representation of the days we've been out here sloggering around in oil and grease, and let's hope it stays this way for a couple days. This is the best fall we've ever had. Now you can see from the 3 flights that I put out there that were representative, and I just want to, they were representative of about 4 hours of video that we had. In fact, I wanted to show this, that this is our, what Rich Oliver calls the needle range. Pretend that this is a clock. Well, with this engine, when I'm at this, basically at this, I guess we'd call it the 6 o'clock part of the range, our whole motor run is 4-cycle. I mean, it's 4-cycling, maybe a little faster 4-cycle, 4-cycle, 4-cycle. That first flight, if you go back and look at it, almost never breaks into a 2-cycle. As we incrementally sneak up on a needle, somewhere around 9 o'clock, and I would be, maybe that's close, maybe I'm off by a little bit, what will happen, and you can look at the second flight, right about in this range up here, and on a certain few spots, you'll just get a little burp of 2-cycle. The rest will all be relatively 4-cycling. As you get the needle up, and we've got about a half a needle of range. I've been past this, but I think it's safe to say we have about a half a turn of needle on this engine. Then we have what, if you see the third flight, and that's why I wanted to put 3 of them on, we have the classic, it's 2-cycle in most of this part, 4-cycle in most of this part. And you'll see the tank is still shimmed a little bit leaner for outside maneuvers. Next time I pull it apart, I'll re-shim it, and we'll look at it. But then I have the classic motor run that everybody seems to wind up liking. But what I thought was pretty cool here, after a couple of days of flying this, what this gives you is choices. You almost have the run here like the Sato 91, that big, dramatic, never breaks into a 2-cycle run. Then you have, which some people seem to like, is that where it's just hitting a 2-cycle at very few parts of the pattern, very predictable, and then the traditional 2-4 break. So what I'm seeing very early in, and we're hoping we're going to be able to get out there tomorrow, is we are really taking advantage of an incredible gap in the weather here, in between days of rake and leaves, that what I have is about a half a turn of needle, and I have 3 different choices of motor run so far. And I don't know what the last choice would be. I mean, there just isn't another choice. But if we can get out tomorrow and get a couple of flights, we're really moving this right along. And this is going a lot quicker and a lot better than I ever thought it would. And it's just been a blast flying this motor. To reiterate one point here, the original pipe, the original header that we had with the very little volume, really didn't have a lot of success with that. I wasn't happy with that. But what we found out with, and we're going to work on an alternative, Rich is already working on alternatives. The thing that I really liked about this is we put the 65 pipe on, the smaller one, that has the outlet for Miss Ashley, and it's got a curve in the wing. That's why these are all special. They need that little curve in the wing. And when I went to the bigger volume pipe, the other one has the equivalent of an extra can on it. Well, everything got better. And then we went to the little bit bigger diameter pipe, which has a different angle, a little bit different angle. It even got better. And what's happened is every time I've made that pipe volume bigger, now I came across another little phenomenon, is the last pipe I tried is for all purposes a 91 pipe, because the outlet is 1/2 inch, where all of these outlets are between 375 and 400. And when I went to the 1/2 inch outlet pipe, which is the biggest pipe with the 1/2 inch outlet, the runs got even better. And what happened, it got even more needle friendly, as if it wasn't needle friendly enough. So we are basically, I think, a tank shim away from really having this dialed in well. And then we're going to come back and work on this muffling situation when we put this motor in the Typhoon. But we've really made some progress, and it looks like the weather's holding up. And you never know. You never can tell how many days you have left in this part of the country. The 2 things you can be sure of: raking leaves every Saturday, and hopefully getting 1 or 2 flying days before the big snow comes.
guess what? He does. And by the way, Dub, thank you. This is a great engine. And I'm excited. I'll tell you how excited I am. This morning it's really too cold to be out here. And you can see your breath, and I've already had a thermos full of coffee. But I'll tell you, when you get something that's this exciting to test, I don't know. I have trouble sleeping at night. I don't know what other people do. I was thinking about it last night. I got up this morning and it was really cold, and I said, I don't care. I'm going flying. Nobody. You'll notice nobody else is here. Everybody else has like the Minnesota Vikings out here playing the Green Bay Packers or something. But I just figure the more data I can build on this engine, the better. Now, I did notice one thing that's worth mentioning. I don't even know if we're going to get, it's not even sunny enough to get, I don't think we'd get good video. But one of the things we've been toying with is the exhaust system, and what I have in here now for the final, this will be the final test because I don't have any bigger pipes. It's a pipe with a 1/2-inch outlet. I'll try to show this up on the bench later. We've been changing the pipes between flights, and basically every time you make the pipe bigger, the engine gets better, smoother, whatever. But it's been, let me tell you, this has been exciting. One of the major nuisances that I have is getting the battery to stay on because we're using an OS Max 4-stroke plug.
Trying to shoot flights just for my own reference and for Rich and Dub, and it's hopeless. It's just too dark to shoot flights. But we are getting flights. We are burning gallons of fuel. We're into the 5th gallon already on this, and it's just getting better and better, getting more and more friendly. And I know these motors, I know even Rich Oliver doesn't agree, but they just get friendlier as they get older. My 65, after 2 or 3 seasons, it just gets nicer and nicer. The longer you have it, the longer you run it. And the 77 looks like to be a big dog on a short leash. Anyway, we get back to the shop. It's cold today. Now, that last flight was just showing one of the representative flights. When it's running in a kind of a fast mode, that's about as hard as I'd think you'd ever need to run that motor. Now, some more books from Gerald Champion. We really appreciate these. We appreciate all the people that send things in, of course. And that 77 is just coming around so quick that my head is spinning. Hard to sleep at night. Anyway, we'll get a little inspiration here, and then we're going to hopefully get some more shop work done. This mystery flying that we've been doing is really eating into our building time, but hey, when it comes around this time of year, you got to take it. Look at this picture, this profile view of the Tiger Cat. Boy, if this doesn't make you want to get building, oh man. Between how well that 77's working out and these new fiberglass wings, boy, we're really looking forward to the next flying season. We're going to have us a very cozy winter, but that flying season, it comes up quick. And I love looking at these books in the morning, and I love books and a cup of coffee before you start work's a great way, especially when you have an hour or two of internet stuff to do. Trouble with these books, every once in a while I'll start reading a story and without realizing, hey, time's a wasting, and I spend an hour or two sitting here sipping coffee, go make an extra cup and just keep reading. The word I got from Rich Oliver is he's anticipating having a very large fuselage Focke-Wulf coming off of his assembly line. He's working on a P-51, an Al-Rabi Mustang. A lot of exciting stuff. No matter what turns you on, in our event, there are just so many things. You really don't have to you don't even have to settle for one or two. You can do like me and just have it all. And even a story about the old Red Baron is a part of it from the crash. Revitalizing the Red Baron. Wow. Can't wait to read that. The thing is, there's so many cool things happening in the world all around you. To miss them, what a shame. People go to work, come home, go to work, have no idea how many interesting things there are to do in life. Even my next door neighbor, who I really respect and like, he looks at me working all the time and he says, why don't you just sit around like I do and relax? Well, you know, the truth is, I enjoy doing what I'm doing. Now, a lot of people have no idea how big a Sea Fury is. Look at how big the Pilot is, even though this is a wrinkled page. You can't get by it. How cool would that be? And if Tiger Cat has something very similar to that, by the way. Australian Navy Sea Furies. You know, what happens in my life, and I guess I'm not that different than anybody else, is a lot of times there's 3 or 4 or 5 exciting things going on at the same time. And I get up in the morning and I don't even know what I want to do. But boy, I just can't imagine having a life any other way. And that doesn't even count the fact that Mike Costello's out on eBay buying Mike's Trainhouse engines all the time for our model of what already has become as much his railroad as mine. Just a world of cool stuff to do and enjoy and share. And I hope you enjoy sharing it as much as I do. Now the day is here where we're going to try to fix, we're not going to try, we're going to fix Rich Jacobone's Stuka. And you can basically see as he knocks things on the floor.
I got all rattled with that comment.
But the first thing is, let's get some M600 and clean as much of this off as we can. But don't get this wood wet. You want to get this clean, and then I'm going to have to start. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this bottom piece. What is this? The spar? This is the.
Yeah, this is the.
That's what holds the belt crank in. Okay.
Joint.
I see you. Okay. Well, that didn't break, so
no.
That's good. Okay.
The one on the top broke.
Yeah, yeah.
See, it's
well, we got to see what we do is make a little piece like a tongue and groove here. So we got something to glue that to. But again, the point that I was making is when you're going to do a repair like this, the first decision is The two ways to do it. You're going to take and do all the mechanical stuff and then go fly the plane on a windy day. And make sure it doesn't break. But what happens if you then come home and do all the cosmetic stuff? That's a whole separate repair.
Yeah.
And the cosmetic stuff you can do little by little. When an hour here, an hour there, let it dry. Actually, there's not a lot of cosmetic stuff. And in this case, this is an easy thing to patch because you could just make the camouflage go. And a canopy, just get another canopy from there. Or could you cut this piece out? We're going to see if you can cut that piece out. Maybe put a whole new piece.
Splice a piece.
Yeah. But the first thing is we got to make tongue and grooves here, so that when these join together, you know what I mean, John?
Yeah.
So
we got some strength here.
You got some material.
Yeah, because
So
you
hold
know.
on to it.
So you got to have a tongue and a tongue,
Yeah.
and maybe out of a 64th plywood even, so that when you put this together and then we jig it up,
Yeah.
exactly, or else, you know, it's kind of hit or miss. Well, you got a lot of paint on there anyway. Look how thick that paint is. But then if this flies and it doesn't break, then you don't mind doing the cosmetic stuff.
Yeah.
Now look out here, Rich, what you could do, make yellow wingtips. Just make yellow wingtips. You know what I mean? This I could Bondo this in 5 minutes. That's no problem.
Yeah, well-
And this is the outboard tip anyway. Who cares? You'll just need less tip weight. The top of the rudder is easy. We'll cut that off and put a block. Just put a block at the next rib. Is the rudder broken here? Where's that broken? The rudder?
It's the stabilizer that loosened
Okay.
up.
All right. So we got to put a spar and a stabilizer.
The stabilizer did not break.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it
It's
did.
broken.
Oh, yes,
It's broken.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, don't break it. Don't make it any
just
worse.
moving it, yeah.
I can do that from the bottom. You won't see that. Okay. All right, the first thing, let's get it all cleaned up before anything else. Let's just get it cleaned up. It's easier to work on something when it's clean.
Let's get something to clean it with. What do you...
The first thing of any, we got to assess where this is broken. This is broken in here. The stab is cracked in half. So we're going to have to figure a way of getting in here and getting one side of this either fiberglass or a piece of plywood in there. You don't have a hatch back here. There's no hatches on this plane. This is a solid one? Okay.
It's a solid.
Okay, and luckily John and Rich are getting everything cleaned up. Get M600, get as much of the grease off, the junk, the dirt.
Got on this. Over here, too.
It's on the bottom, too. That looks like raw fuel. Well, the plane had fuel in it when it crashed, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So the first step on any repair is get everything cleaned up. M600 is the best for cleaning it all up. And then the first thing we're going to do is try to fix the stab. I'm going to have to make a little hatch in the back and get in there and get some fiberglass or some plywood in there. Look in there. What we did, we made a hatch. Every angle on this is angled. You see how it's on like a 45-degree angle? Doesn't matter which way, because it's like a cork that's going to go back in there eventually. Well, let's see where it broke. Oh, look at that. I can see where it's broke. Wow.
Really?
Boy, you don't have to be Professor Clouseau to see that. Okay. So now, let's get that lined up. That ought to be relatively easy to line up and get some, at least get some epoxy in there. Got this jigged in position with some tape. We just tack glued it on one side. John eyeballed it. In fact, he still got the kicker on here. Just eyeball that in place. Before we go any further, let's make sure we're half straight, because now we got to make a hatch on the top. We got to basically do the same thing on the top, and we got to be able to get in there and get some fiberglass cloth and epoxy. Now, Rich had a good idea when this is all done. A real full-size Stuka has braces, so he could put some popsicle stick braces here with carbon fiber or something, because he's got solid wood here. That certainly wouldn't hurt. Okay, so the next step is going to be to make a hatch on the top and do the same thing on the top. The crack on the top, and what we're going to do, Rich is mixing up epoxy right now. We're going to make a 4-ounce cloth patch to go in there. Doesn't have to be real fancy now, but for right now, just really like to get the tail as solid as possible. 5 minutes will let us do that. And once the tail is solid, then we can start figuring out how we want to jig this wing together. You got solid fiberglass in there. See how strong that is. Just don't break it. Just
Yeah, it feels good.
okay.
What I'm going to do is with the braces underneath, It's going to really...
Oh, yeah, yeah. Even if you didn't put the braces, this'll... Where's the Stuka got braces? In the front or the back?
Right here.
Right there.
Okay, but try to get it, well, onto a rib.
Yeah.
Where it's solid. Feel where it's solid. Okay. All right, where's this little piece now? Let's get that piece back in there. We don't have to go to the top anymore. We're done with the top.
We have to align the rudder. Because the rudder, when it's smashed...
Yeah, it's cocked.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
so
cocked.
you've got to... Well, first, cut this piece off. Then we could bend it. We could even steam it if we have to.
Where's the knife?
Be careful you don't cut your finger off. It's nice if you could end it in solid wood. That'd be nice.
Who's that? Les on the phone?
Brian. Brian's coming over with the welding stuff. He's gonna give welding lessons this afternoon.
Ah.
The Stuka Welding Club. Well, part of this event, Rich, no matter whether you like it or not, you know, if we were motorcycle racers right now, well, not only we have to buy a new bike, but your knees would be all scummed up. You'd need a $500 set of leathers. Maybe a trip for a custom wheelchair fitting. Who
Maybe
knows?
a trip to the hospital, too.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Not funny. A lot of my friends never got to walk again. They just couldn't get off of that their macho men thing.
Well,
they
I
just
know-
never outgrew it.
I know a few myself that used to ride with John Ritchie, and they're all screwed up.
Oh yeah, all gimping and limping and bimping and trying to get their tattoos removed at the local tattoo removal place. That's the guy who in the future is going to be real rich. He comes up with an instant tattoo removal, and we'll start with John. That's a nice block to work with, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
That's Les's block. That thing works great.
I got to buy one of these.
Now we're going to depend on John's eagle eye to line up the rudder. But even if you don't get it exact, the world's not going to end, believe me. Believe me, even when I crashed Tradition and I had it all crooked and twisted,
Yeah. You remember
thing
that?
still flew good.
Yeah, you remember the tail was like that.
Yeah, the tail's on a 30-degree angle and the thing's flying fine.
And I'm watching it fly at flushing. I said, son of a bitch, look at that thing.
Yep.
So you mean to tell me this is not going to be an 18-pointer?
It may be more. All right.
Hey, we'll give it 18 points.
Dress that off. That's good. Let's get that little piece fit in there now.
What, to this side?
You want it to be over this side more than level, because when we glue that piece in, this is gonna
It's over that way.
this is gonna have some memory. It's over this way a little bit. Okay. And what we did, because we can adjust it with the pins now, just use some green tape. Okay, now fit that little piece in as best you can, and just use CA around it. You're done with the top. Get it in place first, and then just use thin CA. And go right down that whole crack that goes to the back too. You get it? You know, you can always relieve it a little bit. See,
Yeah.
right here is where it's going to want to spring. So when we put the glue in, squeeze that together. Crack.
Right.
Run the CA on the whole crack and rub it with a paper towel or with a Q-tips. See, there's a crack up here too. I got to address. We got a crack up there. And just let it soak in. Now put it under pressure. Yeah, no, okay, you got it. That'll do it. You see the spot in front of the stab too? You got a
Yeah,
spot?
right
Yeah. Do the same thing, except we'll hold it sideways there.
Yeah.
See, hold it sideways.
Yeah.
It'll penetrate better that way.
Yeah, let me get back. Let me get back there. Okay. All right. All right.
And just use a Q-tip. The Q-tip sets it off nice and slow.
Is Les coming over?
Yeah, yeah. Now you can put a real glue joint on that. Now you know it's straight. Just go back over everything.
Well, let me just get something to wipe this down with.
Yeah, clean it first. Because you want that glue to penetrate in there. You want, when you start sanding this down and putting on, you know, Bondo in it, you don't want to have a crack.
Is that what you recommend using, Bondo?
Air epoxy light's better. Bondo's okay. You know, you're only going to need a spoonful to do this. It's not going to be like you're building a bridge or something.
I used Bondo on my Nobler when I rebuilt it.
Bondo's heavier. Air epoxy light's better, but
Epoxy guys.
thing with Bondo, you can put it on, take it right off. Put it on, take it off.
Yeah.
Where air epoxy, you got to kind of let it sit. Okay, clean that, and then let's flip it, and then we do the same thing on the bottom with the hatch that you cut off at the bottom.
You gonna put a piece of glass at the bottom?
You bet. Are you kidding me?
I don't know.
Are you kidding? If this breaks, you know he's gonna. I'll be reading about this in stunt news for 10 years. A repaired plane is better than a new plane. You can have more fun with it.
Yeah, you fly better. You fly it looser.
You fly it
That's a
looser.
crack,
You do.
yeah.
Nobody cares.
Okay, I fixed it.
Nobody cares.
Hey, it's a bad plane. 15 feet in the air, you're pulling out. You old clump.
Just grind it down. You want it, we don't want to make it cosmetically perfect, but I don't want to have it that it's rough either. Just grind it down. Use those little pollywogs, they're good. And then what we do, we put thin CA on it, because you're always going to have a spot where it's hard paint, soft wood. Hard paint, soft wood. And just wipe it with thin CA the way we do all the other, even on raw wood jobs, the same way. See, that part there is just the cosmetic repair. That's not doing any strength. If that was a strength part, I'd put some half-ounce glass cloth on it. Then just move the paper. Yeah, once you get a piece, just move the paper. Now you got, where there's raw wood, it's soft, and where there's paint, it's hard. So you don't have to get it perfect, but get it reasonably nice, because you want to fly this, and you don't want oil getting in there either. The thin CA keeps it that you can then go back and refinish it. And what might be a choice on this, I'm just thinking, if this flies real good, Rich, and you're happy, take some 1200 and wet sand all the clear and everything, and at least patch it, retouch the clear, and then buff the whole thing with you know, with Gorhams or something. Yeah, just work that, fill it out. Because no matter how you patch two pieces, you never get a perfect line. There's always got to be a time when you got to sand it down, put the thin CA on it, harden it up, and sand the thin CA a few times, and then prime it and paint it. There's just no way that I know of to get away with that. That's the secret to getting a plane fixed, that it looks half decent anyway. Plenty of repaired planes in this cellar. We have plenty of. I was lost. Now I'm found. Well, when I hit that bird, John, I was so mad. I was ready to take Chicky and send them packing.
You know who was upset?
Ryan's doing. He's unsoldering the push rod so that we can pretty much take the wing out of the fuselage for the next step, which is going to be getting the wing back in one piece. While he's doing that, Rich can get the tails final sanded down, and we'll put that patch down at the bottom. What a team, huh, John? I'm telling you. We are. I like being in management. I don't have to get my hands dirty.
Yeah, but I need a pair of pliers or something to reach in there.
What's nice about being in management, you don't have to get your soldering iron dirty. He stays in his cage. He's happy. You got it?
It's well melted and just won't let go yet.
You put the whole plane together, the wing back in the body,
You don't hook the controller.
and forgets to solder the push rod.
Yeah.
What a team, what a team. I'm proud to be a member of the Stuka repair team. Are we going to get shirts and hats when we finish this job?
Stuka
Like
repair.
NASCAR?
There it is.
The plane's on fire. I see smoke.
Yeah.
Something's burning.
We moved it. It's right at the very edge here. I don't want to do it.
Dimension, you get the final shape, and then we'll seal it with the thin CA. Once you get a nice contour, maybe you need the regular pliers to put. He's got the safety wire. You see how good that safety wire works, though? You can't even get it off.
No, I got a piece of it off, and that was it. I got to heat it up again. If I'm going to do anything.
You got to do this a couple times. Get it wet. And you're going to have to sand. If you wipe it with the paper towel, you'll get a bet. You won't have to sand as much. You save some sand. Watch, it's dripping down the body. It doesn't matter. You can always sand that off. You're not going to do this job without doing a lot of sanding anyway. So, okay, now wipe that, but keep the towel moving. Now sand it one more time. When this kicks, you can touch it. Sand it one more time. And dude, you got it. It's glue.
Let's see if I can pull it out.
Okay.
Well, maybe.
Listen, but once you know how to do this technique, you can repair airplanes. If you don't know how to do this, boy, you got a long wait trying to get something fixed.
Ah, I did a lousy soldering job, right? I can see that.
The solder sucks. The wire's great.
Okay, now we want to do the same thing. We want a couple layers of that hard cloth inside. When that dries, we're going to put what amounts to be a cork back in, and then Rich will dress that off. You also got this thing here you can dress off too. Okay, paint away, big guy.
Where's the patch?
That's all glass. That tail should be solid as a new Stuka. And it's the same thing. Put the plug back in, sand it, hit it with the thin CA, get it as smooth as possible. Then we'll get this off the table and start working on the wing. You're attacking, and my idea of attacking. His idea of attacking is you take a sledgehammer. All right, don't push it down. If it falls in, you're screwed.
You might work the control to be worried about that.
Nah, you know, the controls, you'll loosen up the controls. Don't worry about that. At this point, I don't care about making another hatch if we have to. Okay, now when that's, you know the deal now. Let it, wipe it. Now if it's nice and straight, now put the glue around the whole edge. Bimbolini, there you go.
There's a wiper right there.
The flag is the report from Tony Carante.
Now when that's in, then wipe it with a paper towel.
Official of the NFL, yelled at him many times. He yelled back though, that's what I liked about him. Offside, defense, number 96.
This has got to be repaired.
Okay, you may as well run the glue. See, that's what's good about run the glue, and you just sand this whole thing out at once. Why fool around? There you go.
Jim, you talked about for the Jets offense, give Quincy Carter more chances of throwing.
There you go. Now just rub that in with the paper towel.
One-on-ones to the outside, they got to take advantage of it. The Cleveland defense, Curtis Martin, already has run one draw. It was very successful, and they complain that they do not do very well against mobile quarterbacks. Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, right. Get the rest of that CA off if you can. Now what are you going to do? Glue your finger to it again? You're only allowed to glue your finger once.
Listen,
Once per repair.
that's the sacrifice you have to make when you have
Hey, it's the sacrifice.
when you fix a Stuka.
The sacrifice for the Führer.
No, not the Führer. For
That'll make him crazy. All right, you got this technique down pretty well. This is going to be fine. See, it's easier to practice on something like this than when you got to do a big part. When you can move it around like this, this is a lot easier. Like having this is for all purposes now a take-apart plane. This is the first plane that they built in one piece and then made it into a take-apart. All right, you got this. Yeah, I'm proud of you. When Doran sees this tape, he's going to say, "My God, I didn't know Rich was this talented." Doran's loving these tapes, boy.
I told Gene about those props.
Oh yeah, make Gene crazy. He'll be nuts.
Hey, did you get a prop like that yet?
Well, see, Gene could never fly a 77. He'd have to buy lead sneakers. We'd have to send him for For some weight. Put some weight on.
You got to
Those
weight and
speed
shoe.
flying posts that you hold on to.
Yeah. No, we'd have to glue them to the ground or something.
But now you got to
Poor
weigh about
Gene.
90 pounds, right?
He can't weigh 90 pounds, 70, 75.
You guys are bad.
You know.
Okay, now you got, see this piece, just line it up.
This piece, there's a little...
Get the CA from the inside. There's a
All
piece
right.
missing, but that's okay.
That's okay, right there.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's all lined up.
Yeah, the piece is probably here somewhere.
And the next thing, we'll get the wing. Let's start laying the wing out.
Shit! It gets hot.
I guess it's working.
I guess that's fresh CA. That's when you buy Brodax CA, it's nice and fresh. It doesn't sit on a shelf like it does at Bimbolini's hobby shop. Wing, we got some real hard 16th. What we're going to do is make a little tongue and groove here for the whole length. Then when it's all in one piece, then we're going to glass where the fuselage would be with that heavy glass. And believe me, just cut some strips. Leave them, you want to get at least, John, half an inch should be okay.
Okay.
Make the hole on the inside like the perimeter.
Then we're going to do CA in it?
Yeah, CA it in. Because we're going to glass the top anyway, so right now that'll hold it.
Is that enough?
Fingers in there. We got anybody's fingers that haven't been glued in this plane
No,
yet?
geez, mine have been glued.
That's it.
See, now, because the spar is broken here, we're going to have to pull some of this covering away when we glass it. But it's not important right now. Don't do it now. Don't do that now.
Still kicking it.
Just get these tongues in
Yeah,
there.
you didn't get that. This top corner is not.
Pinch it and put some kicker in there. Or put some thin CA.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Put some thin CA in there. That's okay. You can turn it around. I mean, we're not going to scratch it up.
Going the wrong way.
Clean that rib out of there, or else you're not going to get a nice joint. Actually, the wing is back in one piece now. Right, let's see if we can get it from this side. What Rich is doing is filling in the little gaps of pieces that we're missing. We squeezed it together with those tongue and grooves, and it looks, except for John's side, which wasn't that accurate. John, I think, is back on a sauce. But anyway, we're making little, just fill in plugs. You know, because otherwise the glass, the epoxy is going to walk right in, and the fuselage is going to rest on here. You want to build that. That's the part that's got to be real good. Peel that up a little bit. You could always paint a catwalk or something on there. Just went together pretty good. I think it went together pretty good, huh, John?
Yeah,
It did.
yeah, sure did. Oh, yeah.
It did.
You bet.
I'll put this in first.
Yeah. Just CA it in and then sand it. If it's not high enough, put a piece right on top of it.
Okay.
Look at this. There you go. Look at this guy. That's it. You're just making little corks to fill that in. And this piece in here, John, just put a little piece of soft balsa in there,
Yeah.
and then we'll sand it back flat. Then what we'll do, we'll glass this front to back with one piece right around the whole front with 4 ounce.
Huh?
There's a piece missing.
Oh, I cut the...
Well, cut it out and put a plug in there. In every little piece, so that when we're all done, it's solid balsa wood.
Okay, I'll tell you what, John. You got the CA there?
Yeah.
Give me some in there. Underneath.
All right.
Yeah, that CA will get under there. Keep in mind, what has to happen, it's this high point of the wing that has to be strong. Back here, you don't care what goes on back there.
No.
This high point of the wing and from here forward where the body's going to attach, you need to make like a vise that's going to grab that.
You want to hot stuff that down?
Not yet.
Oh, I see it's hitting there.
This is just a Bondo job here. Leave this for the end because you don't care. You could, you could just, it's tip weight. You got John working on that center joint. Okay. You just got to get it hand smooth, you know, John. And it doesn't have to be perfect because the 4 ounce cloth confines right in there nice.
You want to fill this in here? What do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah. Fill it. Because after the fuselage is on there, anything that sticks out beyond the body we'll fix with air epoxy light.
Okay.
Boy, it happens.
Oh, yeah.
Even your worst enemy, when he crashes, becomes like a buddy.
Yeah.
If you need sympathy votes, just take your good plane out and whack it. Everybody will love you for 24 hours.
When Ted Fancher put that in at the Nationals,
Yeah, that was a shame. That was a pretty plane.
that was beautiful.
I like that better than his purple one.
Yes, I did
Much
too.
better than the purple.
Better than the final edition.
Put on both sides, that's it.
Yeah, that's just to hold the horn on the back of the wing. And then make that horn cap. You got that horn cap, you said. Do you have that piece?
No.
All right, if you don't have it, just make a piece out
You
of
gotta make
64.
peace, yeah.
60-foot plywood and fill where the horn is with epoxy.
All right, leave it, John. Wait until it sets up, because it's still setting.
Rub it with a paper towel. Don't hit it with kicker. And then you can cut it right off.
Oh, look how rigid that is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can cut you can get that under your fingernail. You'll be
You
in
know
pain.
what? Wait. You don't get that.
Ah, yeah, you look at it. Yeah,
Get the little electric sander and sand it in.
You don't even have to worry about it. Just hot stuff it in there. See.
That's all.
Okay.
Okay, we're getting there.
All right, now let's final sand that out, and let's get the glass cloth on there, and then we'll go to lunch while the cloth is drying.
You know what? You know we should. When you wrap it, it gets.
Okay. Yeah,
You know
it
what
goes
it-
like, it goes cockeyed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just leave me 1/4 of an inch, because what we're going to do is glass right around the whole front with
See,
4-ounce
now here-
cloth.
Here we're going to do something different. Because here we're outside the bounds of the fuse.
That'll just keep it neat. When we're all done, you pull that tape right up.
Beautiful.
Now we're going to glass it with 105 and 205. This is a fast hardener, so hopefully when we get back from Pizza Pie, we will, and Zambelli's coming here with the 3-engine stunt ship. He's got a triple-engine stunt ship. Now we'll wait for him because I think we want to bring that into the pizza parlor with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, go in that drawer, Rich. Pull out 2 rolls of paper towels so that we're up off the table. Right down there. Pull out 2 rolls of paper towels. We got to jig this up. 1 roll about where the landing gear blocks are on each side. Pick it up. There you go. That's the deal. Now you got John to hold it on there, and now we got something to work for.
And it's a bongo board.
That's right.
Yeah.
Surfboard Joe over here.
Okay.
Okay, you got, go ahead, put a little resin on that, and we're going to heat it. And Brian's got, from the high point, that little back piece, you can use 1/2-ounce cloth. Okay, there you go.
How much? We just going to the end, obviously.
Yeah. Richard, I'm not going to waste time doing this. This is something you can, when that you got the technique, you can do this at home. This is not an issue. I want to get when this is dry, get the wing and the body. And get that little piece made for the horn. Somebody's sitting around here, John.
Yeah, well, we had to get a piece of what do you call it? 160.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Get it nice.
Very clean.
What I would do, you know, the next one is glass the middle of the wing where it goes in the body.
Maybe we're supposed to use alcohol. Well, that's
You can use alcohol.
pretzel.
No, that alcohol's better. Alcohol or acetone will get rid of it.
Here we go.
164th, yeah. And we'll tape it on and flip it over.
Now flip it.
Put some epoxy by the post. Then we'll put the piece on. You don't have to even shape it on the outside.
No, you don't need anything here.
don't need
Put a piece across here.
Okay.
Just get Brian to cut a piece. Up here. Well, how are you going to stop this? You got a hole there.
That's true.
That's crazy. Just put it there. A little piece like a postage stamp, Bri,
That's right.
is all you need.
What? Did somebody say a little piece like a postage stamp?
Whoa, look at these guys.
Pick that up.
The Bimbolini repair team.
Right here.
Oh.
Just feather it in. You pull the tape off. Feather the epoxy in.
Well, that's going to have to get sanded there anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're going to have to make new fillets. There's no doubt. You're not going to make that joint and you're not going to pop. The fillet will be air epoxy light and just sand it right in. And then end the paint at the fillet.
Okay.
Because you don't have to repaint anything on the wing. It's just going to be the fuselage. Actually, you could repaint the whole fuselage. Make it yellow so you can see the damn thing, too.
That way you keep it off the ground, you know.
Okay. Yeah, that glass laid down nice. That's
Where's the alcohol?
a thing of beauty.
What are you looking for? The alcohol is...
All right, now you got to get that plenty of glue in there.
Should have had it.
Watch your back, John.
Place, John.
Watch your
Right
back.
in the hands.
Yep.
Okay. Make sure the flaps are lined
Right
up
in
well.
the hands.
Yep.
He's deep down the field.
Yep.
No receiver comes
Look at this.
towards him.
Right, here he comes.
Turns and looks back.
Unbelievable. They cause more damage.
Take a Q-tip and clean out the extra, or you're going to have a lot of sanding.
Hey,
Just get a Q-tip and take the extra out.
I have them right here. Huh?
One,
Okay.
two, with only 2 missed tackles.
It'll
hopefully,
flow right
before
in
it
there,
goes
no?
down.
You want to fill that in.
That's good.
Again, if you're just joining us, Garcia went out with
A flying field in there. Get that out with your fingernail.
no, you can't. You need
That's just
Yeah,
shrapnel.
no, I know you
That's
can't,
shrapnel.
Rich.
Here it is, right here.
I bet Rich always... Look at this. There's shrapnel in his wing. Look at this.
I got hit.
I've been shot. Get in there and
is-
take
it
out
is
the
so.
shrapnel. But you want to
This
squeeze
look
this
like-
together while you get rid of this
Look
joint.
like a small grinding bar or something.
Squeeze it
for a minute.
together.
That was tip weight.
The plane's out of trim now. You're going to have to retrim the tip weight.
Look at it.
You got shrapnel in there?
That's it. Got hit.
All right, then you make a little balsa plug for that. The glass is going to be drying. All right, you got it. Cut the paper away. Then you can see where the wood is going. So you got the paper holding everything together here. You got a lot of paint too. Holy mackerel, get rid of some of this. You're going to sand it back down anyway.
Back in there like that.
2005 Camry gets 34 miles per gallon and is among the lowest fuel costs.
Oh, it popped. Yeah, but you can get it basically back into shape just so you don't start losing parts. And we got to wait for Bob Zambelli to get here, so may as well get something
CA?
professional done.
What did he get lost?
How's that epoxy? Is that epoxy good, Brian? That solid? See if it's solid. Yeah, it's
Hold it
solid.
down?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But see, it's not solid out on the wing yet because
It's not.
it's thinner.
Lump sum.
Yeah, it's not a
It's
lump
got a
sum.
little temperature going there.
Yeah, yeah.
It's nice and warm.
It's a cold day. You put that in your pocket. That'll straighten you right
Yeah,
out.
Yeah.
All right, pull
Go
it
to the
away.
game.
Go to the game.
Yeah, Rich, to
Hot seat.
compensate for this, you need 2/10 of a gram more tip weight.
Well, for the last 10 feet he was flying, he had 2/10 extra.
Yeah, but that was inverted. Did you notice if the wing was high or low?
Let's see. Maybe he needs heavier wheel pants.
These graziati.
Right. You got to be thick-skinned.
Right?
You got to be thick-skinned to repair an airplane here, Rich.
Yeah. Hey, no mercy.
Did you glue your hand to the plane again? There's rubber gloves over there if you want. He glued his hand to the plane.
That's probably.
Hey, crashed it again.
Holy crap. What did they tell him to go home?
Go to church.
Maybe we could just soak that up with CA and then.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing we always do. Soak it with CA, wipe it with a paper towel, put a little skim coat on there. Wait, you're not paying for the CA. What do you care? Just pour it on like water. $20, $30 worth of CA goes on his plane. Who cares? What a guy. This is really funny to look over at my desk and see the body over there. Well, no wonder we lost the war. We were repairing too many things at once. Unbelievable. It is really a fun thing to repair planes in Wendy's shop.
If they would have remodeled this thing and brought it up to date, they would have been way ahead of us. They were ahead of us anyway. We had
Goes like Cal does a pattern. It's still a little nose heavy, but what I get, you can't believe the sound.
I'll bet.
Start it up. I want to hear it.
Pardon me? I'm gonna start all three. We'll smoke out the neighborhood.
Now these are what? The prototype smoothie? This is the prototype?
Prototype of the ARC,
Oh, okay.
which is it's the original Bob Palmer OTS legal. I got a little blurb taped to the wing. You can take a look at it.
Oh, okay, sure.
And that's a prototype for Pat Johnston's P40 profile.
All right. Yeah, that's a cute plane.
They both fly nicely. The smoothie flies exactly like you'd expect a smoothie or Nobler to fly.
What I think you need on this, Bob, is just have all three of the engines get the middle one back further put the tank in a wing, so you see like 3 inline props. That would be so cool.
You can't really believe how well this thing flies. You'd like it because it pulls like a horse. In fact, toward the end of the flight, Al Knight's got both hands on it.
Yeah. Al Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. But I do start with electric starter.
Smart man.
When you profile mount an engine, it goes on the profile.
Oh, okay. All right.
What I really want to know is which one counter rotates.
Yes.
Does the first one?
They used to make a reverse rotation cam for this engine, but they're out of stock.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
I fuel them all up, and then it's so simple. Hook on the alligator clips here and here, zap it. I choke each one first.
Right.
And I zap it with the electric starter, get that one running, take the alligator clips and hook them to here, get this one running, then hook them to here, get this one, and each one starts right up. Then I just sneak around, I top up this tank, then this one, then that one, blast off. When you let this thing go, it's gone. Remember?
Here's what happens, though. If this motor shuts off and these two are running, it's a bitch getting back to start this. That's where it gets dangerous. You know what I'm saying? When you got props to the out of you, it's not a problem. It's when they're to the in, and your elbows and arms and stuff are on top of
What
them.
I do is, let's say these two are running, and I want to start that one. I reach around it like so, or else what I do is I kill the engine. I prefer to have this one running.
Yeah, I'd kill the engine.
But I've tried it both ways, and I go this one, and this one, or I can go this one, and then this one. Either or.
Yeah, the front one wouldn't matter, but boy, you don't realize how big that prop arc is until you...
I have a lot of respect. As a matter of fact, I just sent my next article, and it deals entirely with prop cuts and prop safety.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got to tell you, it was a gruesome picture in the last stunt news with that airplane with the
blood on it. I didn't send that in. Somebody added that to my article.
Here's a question for you. We need to look up, because there's going to be some line rule size changes. The formula doesn't involve displacement. It involves weight. Do you know what that formula is? Weight times speed equals the line tension? Or
yeah, it's...
There's some idiots that still think it involves displacement of the motor. It doesnn't.
mv squared over r is the only thing. That's the physical formula. That's Newton's second law for round.
Well, what I'm saying is, but displacement is not part of that law.
It's the speed of the plane, the weight of the plane, and the length of the line.
If you put a pylon racing engine in a profile ringmaster, you can generate more line tension than a 60 ship.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with displacement.
It has. It's directly proportional to the mass. If you double the mass of the plane, you double the pull. But it's the square of the speed. So if you double the speed, the pull goes up by a factor of 4.
Yeah.
But it's inversely proportional to the line length. So if you lengthen your lines, you get less pull because you're dividing by line length.
So what they should do is start allowing 80-foot lines.
So what is it?
MV squared over.
Oh boy, Pampa. Hello, Pampa. Stuka stunt.
Mass times velocity squared over r.
You can bet they'll find the 4 most misinformed people on the planet to write the rule.
In pounds.
So the original by Bob Palmer plane was assembled.
Per second squared, that gives you the mass in slugs. You then square the velocity, which has to be in feet per second. You got to keep your units consistent.
That is nice.
Okay, square your velocity. Then you divide.
This is nice. We've seen this before. This is Pat Johnson's P40.
You have some aerodynamic.
I'll tell you, there's days it's fun to hang out in the shop and hang out here, and today happened to be a very good day. This was a good one.
Centrifugal acceleration is.
And we're going to finish that plane when we get back from pizza. We're all headed out to the pizza place. Out to the critical part, getting the push rod soldered. We got to get in there, get the push rod soldered, glue the back of the fuselage in place.
And just make sure
and then glue the nose on.
We don't solder the push rod to the horn.
Oh,
it's like hot stuffing hinges. You ever have to stuff wick in?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I did.
And all of a sudden the hinge becomes a rigid.
This looks like Burt Rutan's out of spaceship with the rotating wing. You got this down to a science. Look at that. He's got the wire twist in there, the wire.
No, the man knows what he's doing.
Oh.
Okay, so now we got a washer, copper wire, and now we solder it?
Now you solder it.
But let's do it. Let's make a real challenge. Let's do it with a Bernzomatic torch.
Yeah,
let's do it with a propane.
That would be exciting.
That's right.
With MAP gas.
That's right.
Or an oxyacetylene, you know?
And remember the cone. You're cheating if you make it less than 3 inches.
Those old plumber's torches.
Okay.
The problem, we're soldering it in with
I think we're okay.
the flaps are down and the elevators are down. I don't know, maybe these guys got it backwards. You sure this is going to work?
Probably are. What I was going to do was
That's not a bad idea. Let me just clean off the
A little bit of tin foil. Boy, that glass dried up nice, huh? Ooh, that's a nice.
This is an instant heat soldering gun. I've had the trigger on for 3 hours.
Shush! Shush, Christmas is coming. Buy me a new one.
It'll get heat.
Oh, it's fine.
It'll finally melt.
Here, here's the flashlight.
Beautiful.
That's his own flashlight, too.
That's what I need.
There's some high-tech stuff going on here, baby. You want to deflux that? I got the defluxing stuff.
Yeah, just either that or just
Let it cool normally.
Take a look inside. Make sure you look.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Les is the building inspector
Look at
here.
you.
Les von Hunsberg.
Oh, yeah.
Looks okay?
Is that okay?
But you definitely want to deflux it. Let's deflux it.
Put the push rod in.
Look at this. He's taking a bath. What? Hey!
You only had one choice.
Well, there's only one way.
Because it hadn't flipped over.
Okay.
Actually, I had put in.
But Rich, don't you see the problem? The elevators are down and the flaps are down. You're going to fly back. Look at this.
Yeah, but that's all right.
You couldn't get
As
that
soon as
Take a look, Whitney.
as soon as the push rod, as soon as the push rod
Oh, I'm so
comes
impressed.
unsoldered from the control horn, you know, it's not going to make any difference.
Yeah, that's going to be good. That's perfect, the
I think
moon
we got a
drill.
good joint now. I think it's.
That's good.
Check this out.
Yeah, take a look, Rich.
Let's deflux it. Les, can you get him the defluxing stuff?
What? Where's it?
Oh,
beautiful.
I won't even look at it.
I just took I made 2 loops.
Right.
Put the defluxing stuff
put the
away.
flashlight on it, and then you put the video in there.
And remember to get some lubrication in there. I got a couple drops.
I got the chain lube. Yeah, I got the chain lube. We're going to chain lube that, and then let's get ready to, we got to put the back of the body on the wing next.
Where's the chain lube?
Spray can.
I got it to spray, but it's easier to put it on a cue, otherwise it's going to spray all over the wing.
When I took the Red Baron apart, there was fuel inside the fuselage all the way to the tail. It was.
Oh yeah.
You must have had a couple hundred.
That's why I don't like wooden fuselages.
I mean, it was all. Okay.
You got the pins holding it in alignment. Some 5-minute drying just to tack the back of the fuselage on.
Oh, you threw an interception?
Yep.
Jeez.
The swim bladder must be less technical.
Okay, once that sets, then we're going to set the nose in position. Let's get that set. Okay, so here you are.
Need it to trim the boat.
Not only that, if you're working with
Now we're going to trim this off, John. Trim this even with the first, with this.
strand orientation,
Get rid of this piece.
in a certain axis, it has a certain number of strands.
Yeah.
And in another axis, it has fewer strands.
Oh, really? Is there such thing?
Oh yeah. You can engineer that.
Got the noses tacked on. Rich is just roughing up some of these little spots. Yeah, that feels good. Just good enough that we can get some air epoxy light in there. It'll be fine. See, there's no. Just make sure there's no high spot. That'll be fine. When we do the air epoxy light, I'll go around the whole thing. And get in the fillets if you can.
Yeah, we did some more.
Nah, we're done with that, John. Anything you can get rid of, clean the deck so when we do the air epoxy, we have a clean place to work. Appreciate it. Epoxy light. Next step, getting some, got my way here. Get some filleting on there. Rich, like it or not, it's a one-piece plane again.
Yep.
And I think you got all the structure done. I think from this point on, we want to definitely fly it, and then if it still flies well, do all the cosmetics, and feels good having it in one piece again, huh? I'm back, Arnold Stuka, I'm back. I'm back, Chicadule. No, that was a great Stuka repair, a nice team effort. But we have bigger fish to fry. Now this is going to be the last day we get to fly this, because we have basically all the parts we need to set it into the Typhoon. And I'm not going to even bother recording video. I just thought I'd get another gallon or so of fuel through it. Getting more and more friendly. We're going from gallon 5 to 6 right now. Still using the door and prop. And what today is going to give me a little opportunity to do is see how this is going to perform in some nasty air, because it's slated to get really nasty later today. One of the little things I found necessary in having the full 14-inch prop and the 77 is to go back to having the double trim tabs. The one trim tab wasn't enough. Those little flap tabs, warts, whatever you want to call them. I've corresponded by email with Al Raby to see what his idea was, that when we put the 13-inch prop on the plane, that's not necessary. But every time I go back and put the full 14 on, and I guess it's because the full 14 is turning at a higher RPM maybe too with the 77, I'm not sure. But we certainly have to take that into account on a Typhoon. We're going to need some way of fine-tuning that wing. And I'm not sure, again, I've said this before, because the weight is above the center of gravity, below the center of gravity, it has altered, that 3/4 of an ounce has altered the center of gravity, and the big prop possibly putting more airflow back over the rudder. I'm not sure, but one of the things I've learned. But when you get out here nice and early like this, there's always a good chance we'll get our gallon of fuel burned and then get back to the shop. Thing before we put the 77 into the Typhoon, and this is, I keep saying it's our last day of testing, but this really is. I wound up getting a gallon or so. In fact, you can see how much fuel is underneath the plane. I wound up getting about a gallon through here just to see if the motor was going to be happy with the 4-blade, because I really do want to use the 4-blade on the Typhoon. And at full 14, I had to go to the next size bigger Venturi, which in this case was 220 from 215. 215, it was bogging down. 220, it came back to life, came back to where I had the motor run I wanted. Now, a couple of things that are significant here. First off, the 77 turns the 14-inch 4-blade. I wouldn't say effortlessly, but it's a very nice, smooth combination, and I think something everybody would want to try. With the 3-blade, it's a little racier. It's got a little bit more speed. With the 4-blade, it's a little more like what we consider a traditional stunt run to be. Turns on and off very, very reliably. The only thing I got myself in trouble here today is I left the bag home that has the 4-bladed spinner. I brought the 2-blade, the 3-blade. I wound up spending this basically most part of the day with the 4-blade. But I want that ready to put in a Typhoon. And as you can imagine, I'm pretty excited about getting that in the air very soon. We need to still make a muffler. We have the tank. And I think it's safe to say we will be using this 4-bladed prop. Anyway, this was not a wasted day. A day we put a lot of data in the database. And I'm going to leave that big Venturi in there. Well, it's a big, but a 220. I'm going to leave that in there for the time being because I wanted to take this whole package right out and put it in the Typhoon if possible, except of course for the exhaust system, even the tank shim. And that looks like it's basically the same as the 65. If anything, the tank has to go maybe the 64th of an inch closer to the mounts relative to the 65. But now we have all that data and we have most of the parts. We're going to hopefully get together with Les one of the days this week and get that all fit in. And then we'll probably just put the 65 back in here just so we have a spare plane to fly for those conditions that you know come up in the winter. Those, do I really want to go to the field conditions? And I'm not sure today wasn't one of them. It's kind of cold out here. But we have got, this is going on 6 gallons. We're going to finish up 6 gallons before we go home. And that was a free 6 gallons we would have never had if we didn't have this Indian summer. Just a freebie. And I think we put it to good use. Now this was an extremely interesting day. We got a lot of fuel burned, and we really want to get this in the Typhoon, but one of the things I had a problem with is I kept opening up the Venturi. I'm at 220 now, and I really want to give it one more day at maybe 225. I'm going at about 5,000 increments, and I have a whole bag of Venturis. But one of the things that I've noticed really important with the 3-blade it seems like we were under the maximum prop load with the Venturi being 215. Now, with that 215 and this prop, it was overloaded. At 220, it came back to about where it should be. But, of course, now the problem is now we're using more than 6 ounces of fuel. So between having to maybe make a bigger tank, we already have the tank for the Typhoon, so we're going to be limited as to what we can do. And the other choice would be to get one of these props, cut it down to 13.5. Don't want to do that yet. So what I do want to do is pull everything out of here right now, and I want to look at how that muffler is going to fit in a Typhoon if we can get that muffler in there without making a big headache out of it. I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that yet. But it was really a little positive thing to have a test on the 4-blade. And if you're even considering a 4-blade on a 65, it's too big. At least it's too big for my 65, but it seems like it might be right on the money or just marginally too big, maybe 1/8 of an inch too big. But it really had that nice tractor feel in the maneuvers, and of course, as always with a 77, the line tension was just perfect. Now, every time I take this apart, I always check the screws, of course, clean off the goop off the header. And the other thing, and I guess it's significant because we're using a carbon fiber tank here, is this tank, relative to the 65, needs to go down just probably a 64th, just the slightest amount. And I thought it would be the opposite because this engine is taller. It seems like it's the opposite, but maybe it's the fact that the way this sits in the fuselage, it doesn't sit straight either. Now, the other problem that we ran into right now is a big problem. I thought I was going to be able to extend this tank forward 1/4 of an inch and get an extra, maybe 3/8 of an ounce of fuel, but it seems like I'm limited by that tank size if I'm going to use a carbon fiber tank. And the carbon fiber tank, of course, being a lightweight way to get this, I don't want to put another 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces of nose weight in this. And I really do need to get, if we're going to go back and fly this tomorrow, need to get the 4-bladed spinner, and don't forget to bring it to the field or put it on a plane before you go. But it looks like we all limited to 6 ounces of fuel without making a major change here, something I really don't want to do. I want this to be as easy of a swap as possible. This was the best of the pipes, again, the one with the 1/2 inch opening, and it's got several little concave parts. It's had patches on it and whatever over the years. But this pipe is the biggest in volume too, so there's definitely a relationship to getting the volume of the pipe bigger and getting a nice wider, easier to needle power band. And we've tested 4 different ones. Now the next thing is going to be to try to come up with a muffler for that Typhoon. Now we finally did remember to put the spinner on. This is one of the carbon fiber spinners that comes from England. We got this one from, I think from Paul Winter, I'm not sure. Now, believe it or not, they're predicting good weather again tomorrow. I'm actually getting to the point where I'm wondering if we're just going to, all of a sudden, it's going to turn into snow. It's a little cooler, but the weather report for tomorrow is another good day. And if we can get a day, the advantage would be the more time we can get on these props and motors and everything when we actually put the Typhoon together. And I really wanted to wait till Les was here to do that. Just gives me more choices. Getting more familiar with this motor every day, and it's getting to be a really good friend. This is amazing. I feel like I live in California or something. We are going to have a day. Now, the unfortunate thing is no matter how good the day is tomorrow is Thanksgiving, so we're not going to be flying. This is definitely going to be the end of our flying. But if I can get one more day on this 4-bladed prop, the only thing left is the muffler for the Typhoon, and then we can transition into flying the Typhoon in whatever, if we get any weather left. We never know if we're going to have any weather here. And then if the weather goes bad again, like it did already, we'll be back to working on the Tiger Cat. I like the look of that 4-bladed prop. Just picture this on a Bearcat or on a P-51. That is a slick looking prop. Now we had a lot of good runs
This is definitely a very promising setup, but the only thing we really do with the 4-blade, you really do need the big Venturi. Don't even think about the stock Venturi if you're going to run a 4-bladed prop. I guess I'm not the only one that's enjoying this Indian summer. Keith Ferguson's been joining me on a regular basis here, and he's got finally got the right length lines on the plane, and experimenting with the hinge lines being taped. We're going to spend a little time with this today too. I think Keith is looking to get a new powertrain. He's got a Moki 51, which seems okay, but it's marginal at times. And that 77, it just gets better by the flight. Just gets better and better and better. I love the look of that big prop. I can't wait to get that in a Typhoon. Now I would say, even though the first run of the day was a lean run, I'd say you're convinced taping the hinge lines was worth doing, at least so far. And he had to get the handle back to neutral. Your lines are a foot shorter than mine, 2 feet shorter, so you're on realistic lines anyway. And the Moki, I don't know that you won't be able to get this running the way you want. It's just, it's getting better each time we run it. Too bad it's not a Moki 61, you know? When you have the more displacement, it just makes it easier. But at least we're getting somewhere with this. The Moki 77, that's what I'd be looking for. I was real happy to see that this is working out for Keith, because we've really wrestled with the motors in this plane. He had a Merco that was a little bit of a handful, and the Moki, which I think is better. But again, I just think if you put a more modern motor in here, that would even be another upgrade. But for right now, just taping the hinge lines was a significant upgrade. And I think that's a lesson everybody can learn. I don't see any counterpoint to taping the hinge lines anymore. It used to be years ago you'd have people with various counterpoints, and it does this better and it doesn't do that and whatever. I don't know. I don't see that anymore. All I see is almost all, and maybe all of the experts have taped hinge lines. And I'm not sure the ones that don't, if there are any, what their reasoning is, but I know it works for me. And it works for pretty much everybody that I've ever tried to help trim a plane. And Keith, just like me, just like myself, we're just out. Indian summer, free flying. Never thought I'd be flying the day before Thanksgiving. Never. Now, just to show you what we're trying to accomplish, and looks like we're well on our way to accomplishing it, we started off with 4 of these pipes. When they had the 375 outlet, they were all a little bit different. They were good but not great. We eventually put the pipe that has the biggest outlet on it, and that was 500. Things got better. And I think they got significantly better. Now, what I did in the meantime, and this was a test, I had made one of these similar for Rich Oliver, but I wanted to make one for myself from spare parts that I had laying around the shop. I took another pipe, and I'll show this really up close, and extended it, made it 2 baffles wide. In other words, our first pipe only has 1 baffle. It's got a hole in it. This pipe has 2 baffles. It has a hole here. It has a hole here. It's actually 2 baffles. And then there's another cone on the back. And this hole that comes out here is 650. Now, I suspect this is a lot like the pipe I made for Mike Kajeski. This is going to be louder. It's also going to allow the engine to run a lot stronger. Not that that's what we need, but for our experimental purposes, picture what's happening here.
The exhaust gas, and this is made for a 65, the exhaust is exhausting into this. It runs into the baffle. At some part of the sound wave is going back, but a lot of the sound is dissipated as it expands. As sound expands, it dissipates the energy into the pipe. Now, when we get to this back chamber here, and this back chamber is relatively small, I think the restriction is in the back chamber, but I'm not sure. See, I'm not going to know this until I get a test day, and today is not going to be the day because it's pouring rain out there. So, the same scenario here, it should dissipate some of the energy into the pipe, as always happens. But then we have an extra chamber in the back. So, and these holes are 650. So all of the restrictions are 650 in this whole pipe. Now, you would think that the two things that are going to happen here is that this is going to make for a better gas flow through the engine, which will allow the engine to run cooler. Richard also made a Hemi head, a lower compression head that we're going to try. Now, in conjunction with this pipe and the lower compression head, I think what that's going to allow me to do is open up the Venturi even more. See, we're restricted in this plane by there's no way we can get it bigger than a 6-ounce tank in. But each time we make this exhaust system more free-flowing and less restrictive, what happens? The motor just gets more and more friendly. And that's the direction we're trying to take this. As opposed to if we were making the motor smaller and smaller, yes, you can do that. But the motors get peakier and peakier. They run hotter and hotter. They get harder and harder to needle. We hope that we're taking this in the other direction. Just show some of the differences in how we've run this. We've made a pipe. This is a 375 tube. This is one we've had in our inventory for a long time. And this is kind of what I call my test bench pipe, square one pipe. I know exactly how this runs. I know how big this chamber is and how big of a restriction that exhaust part is. I also have the one that I originally made that has a little bit bigger hole. This gets up to about a 400 hole, and you can tell that that's a significant improvement because you can't see that this pipe is actually shorter. See, the baffle is in the same spot, but the silencing part of it is much smaller. Now, this is the pipe that we really liked, except it's really restrictive. On a 65, this ran great, except it's really restrictive. See how big that back end is? Again, that's a 375 hole. So when we go from 375 to 400, there's an improvement, or 500 I should say. But this one really, this will allow us to test. You can see you could almost put your finger in. You can put your nose in there anyway. This has two baffles, two Ro-Jett baffles. And there's not a lot of restriction going to happen inside that pipe. So the next day we do get to test, what I'll do is I'm going to fit this up in a plane for the next day we do get to test. But again, this is always variable. The problem with all of these things is everything is dependent on the weather. And I think we've maximized the use of the weather here, but of course we're limited. We really don't have sunny California here. But we do have a lot of parts to test. We have more parts coming. And the purpose of this, for the Tiger Cat program even, is the more we can learn about motors and the way the exhaust affects the power output. It's just data in the database, and it's always in our favor to know more instead of less, and to be able to share it, and to be part of an exciting development program with Rich Oliver and with Doran and all the people, Les, that make this a team effort and make it possible that, well, in the near future, they'll be turnkey. You just buy the stuff, bolt it in your plane, and go. And if that happens in the future, well, I'll just be real happy to have done my part in the food chain. But the real challenge, and the thing that's going to be exciting when we get to do it, is we know the Typhoon with the short nose is not going to be affected by the about roughly ounce of extra weight the 77 has. We know now for a fact that we can run the 4-blade prop right from Doran at full 14 inches. We know we need 6 ounces of fuel, and Joe's tank is just a tad under 6 ounces, so it looks like we have all the parts in this puzzle. The part we don't have
and we still have to figure out, we have to invent it, envision it, or whatever, is how we can get a muffler in this area. We only have a limited space because this is an 8-inch nose. Remember, this plane was designed for a Sato 91. So figuring out where and how we're going to put that exhaust system, whether we're going to be able to do something like that or have it come out the bottom, that's the next challenge we face, but that's a challenge for another day. It's very easy in my book to get, when you have this whole bottom of the plane, like a pipe plane, you have room to put things and make pipes bigger and longer and everything. But when it comes to designing up that muffling system, that's going to be a whole separate challenge. We're looking forward to doing it, but like I said, the weather is very iffy. It's raining today. We have shop work all day. And with Thanksgiving coming, I'm not sure we're even going to be able to get back to the field for quite a few days. But in the meantime, we have learned a lot of little significant things. And I realize this is going to be very challenging to get an exhaust system that works, that has enough volume, and it flows and lets the motor run right. And that's why we're taking our time and doing all this testing in Miss Ashley, because that's just a more convenient test venue. It allows us more choices of exhausts, venturis, head gaskets, heads. A lot easier to do the maintenance. And once we get it developed to the point where we're really satisfied with it, and I think that's coming up very soon, then we're going to have to design up a muffling system for the Typhoon. And we are going to be in, hopefully, then just sitting here waiting for some flyable weather. And as I've said a million times before, our filler coat on the Tiger Cat wing is just hanging up by a heating vent. That'll sand out like butter. Looking forward to that. I have to finish the tail. Next time I get some time that we don't have the shop real busy. Right now the shop is just cooking with work because for the reason is we've been out flying the last couple of days and have fallen a little behind on making our carbon fiber parts and gear and all of the things we normally do. So once we catch up a little bit, I know Les wants to work on his plane. So many projects to work on, and I love every one of them. That's what makes this worth doing. Now, because it's really a rainy day, I decided I'd just make sure that this pipe fits. I needed to put the white line on it. Here's the difference. I'd keep this one for a spare. Look at the difference in the OD. That's the difference. And of course, having a rainy day will allow me to do any little fitting changes that have to be made to make sure this fits. And then that one that's in there now, that would be my second choice, but I'd still, I guess a real test would be to cut that stinger off and put a bigger stinger on that pipe, just to see if that's the restriction. See, you have to kind of figure out where the log jam is. If that's the log jam right there, and we change the stinger, and all of a sudden this gets friendlier, well, that's knowing where the log jam is, because the log jam could be up here in the header, it could be in the baffle, anywhere in there. If there's a log jam, it won't matter if you cut the whole back off the pipe if the log jam is up at the baffle. So with the next test that we're going to do, everything is going to be 650. Now, just one other point, when you think of how many times I've had this plane apart and how many parts I've put in and how many things, it really has paid in terms of having it as a test plane. I mean, we've gotten a lot of use out of this plane. And I'm really happy with the way it's worked out as a test plane because it gives us some really good feedback as to how these motors are going to compare to 61 to the 65 and, of course, the 65 to the 77. We can change them all at a heartbeat right at the field or right here. That's what makes this a nice test plane. And, of course, for the Typhoon, going backwards now, once we have it set up for the 77, if we wanted to fly that at the team trails, it would be a question of we'd have to convert it over to be in a 61 plane again. But all the mounting holes and headers and everything should line up pretty well. Anyway, just one other thought as I work this through today. And we didn't expect a rainy day, but we got one. And this was in the retrofit. This was the only part that was a little bit of an issue. I had to trim some of this out back here. Other than that, that is now,
for the next test session going to be the least restrictive pipe we've ever had in the plane period. Now, I suspect it'll be a little loud, but of course I can't tell till we get out at the field. And we plan on doing that in the next couple of days. If God is on our side and we get some weather, we are really spoiled. I'm spoiled. I feel like I live in Houston, where I get to fly every day in perfectly beautiful air. Well, see, in our part of the country, what happens is you get up in the morning and you have to have plan A, plan B, and plan C. Plan A, the weather's good, you can fly. Plan B, the weather's mediocre, maybe we'll go, maybe we won't. Plan C, like today, rainy day, let's work on the equipment. Now, just to make one quick point, you know, had we not taken advantage of those, we had, I think, 6 days in a row. Had we not taken advantage of that day and had we spent time raking leaves or something like that, well, I don't think we'd be as far along on doing our part in this 77 development program. Look at these leaves. I can't wait for this weekend. I can tell you one thing, this is going to be a massive cleanup. But I can do that in unflyable weather. And I think this cardinal here will help me. So I think, just as a moot point, that we've used the time that we had effectively, and now that it's time to do a big cleanup, hey, I can be thinking about that 77 and those motor runs that we had for those 6 days. Now the next thing I want to look at here, this is the tank that Joe Adamusco made for us. He's going to be coming up here for a visit soon. I want to get a feel. I think we're going to have to move that vent. But it's a nice tight fit. Yeah, step one is I'm going to have to get that vent out of there. And what I can do is just heat this with a soldering iron and twist it, and it should come right out. Now usually, if you need to get a tank vent out without doing a lot of damage, you can just hold a soldering iron on it. And again, this is a good trick to just get the old vent out in one piece without doing any collateral damage. Now we're going to have to move the vent, so there's no point making a new one. I'll just save it, clean that off. But we're going to have to move that so it doesn't interfere with the tank. Now there's a little bit of material there I'm going to have to grind away. Now that little bit of extra epoxy is going to interfere with the tank. It's going to cant it up. So I basically just have to grind that out. Let me just vacuum that out. Okay, Joe's tank looks like it's a perfect fit. We have the right clearance behind here. Now we need to just make some kind of a temporary tank shim in here. Probably a little block of wood just to hold this. I'm trying to envision what I want that to look like. And then I need to lay out, in fact I'll make one on each side so I leave room for the header parts there. Or I could line them right on the side. Let's see, I could put one on each side, leave a little more airspace in the middle. This is where it's going to start to get tricky. Making that tank shim up took a little longer than I thought it would because I have the tank cocked to the outside. I have a shim on the side here. I had a solid balsa shim, and if I know I don't need the nose weight or need the nose weight out, I could probably hollow that out. I need to coat the whole tank shim with thin CA, sand it and put a coat of dope on it, because I really don't want to have that deteriorate as we fly the plane. Now that also allows me the option of shimming the tank up just by grinding the top of the tank shim off. And having it in one piece like that, I think, is going to be handy until we get the final tank shim on here. And we're going to start basically where the tank and Miss Ashley left off, but because these tanks are all incrementally a couple of thousandths off, I know they'll need a shim one way or the other. Now I put a couple of coats of CA on that, made a little carbon fiber bulkhead because it'll probably stiffen it up, I hope, and if I do need to get weight out, I can drill holes in it. It's just a block of wood anyway. But I did want to make it fuel-proof. Now that we have that, and while that's drying, I go upstairs, and guess what's upstairs? The box from Richard Oliver with all the header parts. So we're just absolutely right in the nick of time. But I want to allow for the fact that we need to be able to put a 61, 65 in here, 61 if we want to fly the team trails, and of course have the availability to get the 77 in here. So it's going to require a little bit of a making a system, an exhaust system now that's going to fit both motors or be usable on both motors. Now it's never a problem to put a 60 exhaust system on a 40. Where you have a problem is when you put a 40 exhaust system on a 60. And in our case with the 77, putting a 60 exhaust system on a 77 is not too much different than going the other way around. Bigger is always better, and you always have the option of putting the big exhaust, free-flowing exhaust, on the smaller motor. That's not much of a deterrent. So we're going to start laying this out. This is going to be a fun thing, and I have a pretty good chunk of the day here to work on this. Sent up in that box is going to be interesting. We have some various Johnson headers that have some are very high rise. Is this a high rise one? Longer. This is one that's extra long. He also sent up a low compression button for the 77, which we'll look. We have an extra head button, low compression, and a high rise. This is a high. I'm not sure which one we're going to use. And he also sent this, which this is made for some other application. I'm not sure what. Looks like what he did is he took the back end of one of my pipes. Yeah, this is one of my pipes. This is my back end. Has the baffle in it and made it that it'll clamp right onto a header. That's a cool idea. Now the only difference is, now that we know how restrictive these 375s are, maybe replacing this, not sure we won't be able to fit that in there. Or something similar to that. We certainly have a lot of choices now. Now the interference is always going to be on the tank. That's the issue we have to deal with right away. Anyway, but one of the things we may have the option of doing here, I'm not sure we will, this is going to be a tight fit, is putting a little divot in the tank. Maybe Joe can do that for us. I'm not sure if we need it. But we have a just under 6-ounce tank, so the thing that constrains this. Now, if I find out this has to come up off the mounts 1/8 of an inch to be shimmed, that'll allow me to add 1/8 of an inch of tank, and then the equivalent amount on the top, I can make a much bigger tank. But I have to start somewhere. The problem with all these things is you have to start somewhere. Now, the original muffler that was on the 77 is in interference. It's already hitting, and the motor is tilted up. So I don't want to grind a lot of this away if I don't have to, but I just want to go on to trying the next part that's available. Because this is a bigger diameter, the smaller diameter part will probably clear here. So the first thing we're going to eliminate out of here is just having this as part of this plane. This is not going to be a good choice. It's not going to be one of the choices that I think is going to be what we want to wind up with. And as I go through the headers and all the tubes that are available, see how big this diameter is, that's what causes some of the interference. Well, one of the things I'm doing is making a note as to why we didn't use this, even though further down the road we may want to figure out how to fit this in. But right now, having a little note as to what each one is, put each one in a plastic bag, and this way we can start with the one that looks like it's got the most potential. This header just touches the tank, and I think I can tap that little piece in or grind it away. It's just a minor interference. We have room under this, and it looks like we just could clear this. Maybe I could just cut that last little piece off. But that looks like at least a place to start laying this out. Now this is looking like this high-rise header has the most potential of any of these. And of course, we haven't taken into account the bottom block, but I'm going to basically just spend the rest of the day, we're near the end of this tape, trying to figure this out, trying to come up with some solution here. Something that I've got enough parts here, I've got enough things to work with. I just need to figure out exactly how I want to do this. That's the last piece of the puzzle. And once we have an exhaust system, well, I'll be looking forward to just going outside, running this in the driveway, and if it runs the way we expect, getting down that flying field, except if as we can imagine, as you can imagine, if winter sets in, we're not looking forward to that. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Share the tapes with all your friends. Share your friends. Share the tapes with your enemies. Share the coffee. Share the bird. And once we get this Typhoon resolved, we're getting back to our Bomber Command projects, finishing up the tail, sanding out the wing, getting our reverse running crank. We got one of them there. Hopefully before too long we'll have the cranks that are going to wind up in the engines. We can do some real world testing on this. And boy, this has just been, the name of this tape should be Indian Summer. And if you ever do get an Indian Summer, I don't know how you could use it to better advantage than to just develop stuff, work on stuff, and in my case, just enjoy every minute of the good times that we have and share. And the word is Rich Jacobone's going to be ready to test fly his Stuka this weekend. Elliot Scott's going to be here. Joe Adamusco's going to be here. We're going to have a world of company, and we got a world of interesting projects to work on. I'm not sure it could be any better than that. And 2 weeks from now, Mike Costello and Mike Kajeski are going to hopefully be here to work on a project on his ballerina. He wants to develop a four-bladed prop for his ballerina because he has an issue with ground clearance. Now, when I originally designed and built the Typhoon, who would have ever looked into the future, been able to see what a great and exciting project that has become. And it could be a potential team trial plane. That's why we're making sure we have this set up for both the 61 and the 77. Anyway, and we'll see you on the next tape. And I'm looking forward to hearing a report of what's going on with Strega down in Texas. Mike Scott was supposed to have put his motor in air and had some flights. I have a lot of good memories of the year that I actually built the Typhoon. I really was sky high on that, running the Z-Tron. Still enjoy looking at those videos over and over, taxiing up in front of the judges and shutting off the motor.
Though we